Hello and welcome. Today, we'll embark on a whispered journey through the minds of history's greatest philosophers, exploring their thoughts, theories, and the legacies they left behind. From the curious streets of ancient Athens to the wisdom-laden temples of China, these thinkers dared to question life's most profound mysteries, reshaping the way we understand knowledge, morality, and human nature. Our journey begins with Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, who taught us the power of questioning and critical thought. Then we'll enter the world of his student, Plato, who envisioned a world beyond our senses, where pure ideas hold the ultimate truth. And we'll continue to Aristotle, a true polymath whose insights laid the groundwork for science, ethics, and logic as we know them. Moving eastward, we encounter the wisdom of Confucius, the Chinese philosopher who taught harmony, respect, and the value of family. Then, in medieval Spain, we'll meet Averroes, Ibn Rushd, whose passion for reason bridged the intellectual worlds of the Islamic and Western traditions. The Age of Enlightenment brings us to René Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, known for his famous statement, "I think, therefore I am." From there, we encounter Immanuel Kant, who wrestled with the complexities of reason, ethics, and human understanding, forever shaping Western thought. In the 19th century, Friedrich Nietzsche challenged conventional morality, encouraging us to embrace individuality and self-realization. And Jean-Jacques Rousseau pondered the nature of society, freedom, and the human heart, leaving behind ideas that inspire political thought to this day. Finally, we'll explore the life and work of Simone de Beauvoir, a pioneer of feminist philosophy, whose groundbreaking thoughts on freedom and equality redefined our understanding of gender and identity. As we whisper through their legacies, let's discover how these philosophers have shaped our view of the world and continue to inspire us to ask deeper questions. So, relax and enjoy this journey through the lives of history's most profound thinkers. Socrates, often called the father of Western philosophy, stands as one of the most influential thinkers in history. Living in Athens during the 5th century BCE, he is known not only for his ideas but for the method of inquiry he established, known as the Socratic method. This method of questioning was designed to uncover underlying beliefs and expose contradictions. Rather than giving lectures or writing down his thoughts, Socrates taught through dialogue and debate, encouraging his students to seek truth by examining their own assumptions. His legacy endures largely through the works of his student, Plato, who documented many of Socrates' discussions and beliefs. The Socratic method is straightforward yet profound. Socrates believed that true wisdom begins with recognizing one's own ignorance. Instead of presenting answers, he would ask questions, pushing people to think critically and analyze the foundations of their knowledge. This method often involved Socrates approaching someone who claimed to be an expert, only to question them in a way that revealed contradictions or gaps in their understanding. For Socrates, this was not about proving others wrong, it was about guiding them toward a deeper understanding of concepts like justice, virtue, and goodness. One of Socrates' most famous ideas is captured in his statement, "The unexamined life is not worth living." For him, the purpose of life was to seek wisdom and truth, to live ethically by understanding oneself and the world. He believed that knowledge was the key to virtuous action. Those who truly understood good and evil would naturally choose the good. This view was revolutionary in a society where moral behavior was often linked to obeying traditional laws or religious practices. Socrates shifted the focus from external obedience to internal understanding, suggesting that true morality was a matter of knowledge and self-awareness. Socrates' ideas and method often made him a controversial figure in Athens. Known for questioning the powerful, challenging traditional beliefs, and ignoring social norms, he gained both followers and enemies. Many Athenians found his approach disruptive, as he would openly question politicians, poets, and others who held authority. His willingness to criticize and challenge even the most accepted beliefs led to increasing opposition, particularly among those who felt threatened by his ideas. In 399 BCE, this opposition came to a head when Socrates was put on trial for corrupting the youth and not believing in the gods of the city. During his trial, he defended himself with his characteristic logic and clarity, arguing that he had simply been encouraging people to think for themselves. Yet, the jury found him guilty, and he was sentenced to death. Offered the chance to abandon his ideas or leave Athens, Socrates chose to stand by his principles. He accepted his punishment with dignity, continuing to discuss philosophy with his friends and followers until the very end. Ultimately, he drank a cup of poison hemlock, facing death with the same courage he had shown throughout his life. The impact of Socrates' life and death was profound. His students, particularly Plato, were deeply influenced by his teachings and his example. Plato went on to establish the Academy in Athens, where he taught and preserved Socratic philosophy, expanding on his teacher's ideas and shaping the future of Western thought. Through Plato's dialogues, Socrates became a central figure in philosophy, his approach to questioning and his commitment to truth influencing countless philosophers, from Aristotle to the thinkers of the Renaissance and Enlightenment. Socrates' legacy lies not only in his ideas, but in his approach to knowledge and life. The Socratic method, with its focus on questioning and dialogue, has become a fundamental part of modern education, law, and debate. Socrates showed that wisdom is not a matter of accumulating facts, but of examining one's beliefs and striving for deeper understanding. His life exemplified the idea that philosophy is not just a field of study, but a way of life, a commitment to truth, integrity, and self-reflection. His insistence that the unexamined life is not worth living remains one of philosophy's most enduring lessons, reminding us that the pursuit of wisdom is a journey, one that requires courage, humility, and a willingness to question everything we think we know. Plato, the philosopher of ideal forms. Plato is one of history's greatest thinkers, a philosopher whose ideas continue to shape how we understand the world. Born around 427 BCE in Athens, he lived in a time of political turmoil. As a young man, he became a student of Socrates, whose teachings deeply influenced him. Socrates' trial and execution left a lasting mark on Plato, leading him to question justice, truth, and the nature of reality. His desire to find answers shaped his entire life. Plato didn't just study philosophy, he built a place where others could do the same. He founded the Academy in Athens, the first school of higher learning in the Western world. This school became a center for philosophy, science, and mathematics, where some of history's greatest minds, including Aristotle, were trained. One of Plato's most famous ideas is the theory of forms. He believed that the world we see and touch is not the ultimate reality. Instead, it's a shadow or reflection of a higher, perfect reality. These perfect versions of things, like beauty, justice, or a circle, exist in a realm he called the world of forms. Everything in our world is just an imperfect copy of these ideal forms. For example, all chairs we see are imperfect versions of the ideal form of a chair. Plato explained this in his famous allegory of the cave. Imagine people chained inside a dark cave. They've lived there all their lives, only seeing shadows on a wall cast by objects behind them. For these prisoners, the shadows are their reality. If one prisoner escapes and sees the real world outside the cave, they realize the shadows were just illusions. Plato used this story to show how philosophers, like the escaped prisoner, seek the truth beyond appearances and try to help others see it too. Plato wasn't just interested in abstract ideas, he wanted to apply them to real life. In his book The Republic, he described his vision of a perfect society. He believed that only wise and virtuous leaders, whom he called philosopher kings, should govern. These leaders would base their decisions on reason and justice, not personal ambition. Plato argued that a society ruled by wisdom would be more fair and peaceful than one driven by power or wealth. Plato also explored human behavior. He believed that people should strive to live virtuous lives by aligning their desires, emotions, and reason. To him, reason was the highest part of the soul and should guide our actions. A well-ordered soul would lead to a happy and fulfilled life. He believed that understanding what is good and just would naturally lead people to act in virtuous ways. Plato's influence reached far beyond his own time. His ideas about education, politics, and ethics shaped the way people thought for centuries. The academy he founded lasted for nearly 1,000 years and became a model for future schools and universities. His work inspired Renaissance thinkers, Enlightenment philosophers, and modern scientists, laying the foundation for disciplines like physics, mathematics, and political science. Plato's writings, often presented as dialogues, remain some of the most studied works in philosophy. They are rich with questions about life, knowledge, and the universe. His dialogues also give us a glimpse of his teacher, Socrates, whose method of questioning became a cornerstone of critical thinking. Even today, Plato's ideas challenge us to look beyond the surface and think about deeper truths. His allegory of the cave reminds us that what we see isn't always the full picture. His vision of philosopher kings raises questions about what makes a good leader. His theory of forms inspires us to wonder about the nature of reality and perfection. Plato's legacy is a testament to the power of ideas. He believed that seeking truth and wisdom could lead to a better world, and his work continues to inspire that pursuit. Aristotle, the master of many fields. Aristotle, one of history's most brilliant minds, shaped how we think about science, logic, ethics, and almost every other field of knowledge. Born in 384 BCE in Stagira, a small town in ancient Greece, Aristotle was the son of a physician, which likely sparked his lifelong interest in biology and natural sciences. At 17, he moved to Athens to study at Plato's academy, where he became one of Plato's most devoted students. However, Aristotle didn't always agree with his teacher, and these differences led him to develop his own groundbreaking ideas. After studying at the academy for 20 years, Aristotle left Athens and later became a tutor to Alexander the Great, who would go on to conquer much of the known world. This connection gave Aristotle access to vast resources, allowing him to expand his studies and gather knowledge from far-flung regions. When he returned to Athens, he founded his own school, the Lyceum, where he taught and wrote extensively. His school was unique because it combined teaching with research, covering subjects like astronomy, politics, zoology, and more. Aristotle's approach to knowledge was revolutionary. Unlike Plato, who focused on abstract ideals, Aristotle believed in studying the real, physical world. He emphasized observation and logic, laying the foundation for what we now call the scientific method. Aristotle's idea was simple but powerful. To understand something, you need to study it closely, observe its behavior, and classify it based on shared characteristics. This method is still used in science today. One of Aristotle's major contributions was his work in logic. He developed a system of reasoning called syllogism, which is a way of drawing conclusions based on two related statements. For example, all humans are mortal. Socrates is human. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. This logical structure became the foundation of Western reasoning and remains a cornerstone of philosophy, mathematics, and computer science. Aristotle also made lasting contributions to ethics. In his famous work Nicomachean Ethics, he argued that the purpose of life is to achieve happiness, which he called eudaimonia. But for Aristotle, happiness wasn't just about pleasure, it was about living a virtuous and balanced life. He believed that virtues, like courage or honesty, lie between extremes. For example, courage is the balance between recklessness and cowardice. Aristotle called this idea the golden mean and taught that finding balance is key to living well. In politics, Aristotle believed in studying how governments work and what makes them successful. Unlike Plato, who imagined an ideal society ruled by philosopher kings, Aristotle focused on what was practical and achievable. He analyzed different forms of government, monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy, highlighting their strengths and weaknesses. He believed the best government was one that served the common good and avoided corruption. Aristotle's contributions to science were just as important. He was fascinated by the natural world and studied plants, animals, and human anatomy in incredible detail. He classified hundreds of species and tried to understand how living things are connected. Although some of his ideas, like the belief that the Earth was the center of the universe, were later proven wrong, his emphasis on observation and classification paved the way for modern biology and physics. Despite his wide-ranging interests, Aristotle always focused on the idea of purpose. He believed that everything in the universe has a purpose, or final cause. For example, the purpose of a seed is to grow into a plant, and the purpose of humans is to achieve happiness and fulfillment. This way of thinking, called teleology, influenced philosophers and scientists for centuries. Aristotle's influence is hard to overstate. His works were studied for over 1,000 years and became the foundation of medieval philosophy and science. During the Renaissance, his writings inspired scholars to question and explore the world in new ways. Even today, his ideas about logic, ethics, and the natural world remain central to many fields. Confucius, the teacher of harmony. Confucius, one of history's greatest philosophers, shaped Chinese culture and ethics in ways that continue to resonate today. Born in 551 BCE in Sufu, in what is now Shandong Province, China, Confucius grew up in a time of political chaos and social unrest known as the Spring and Autumn period. Despite his humble beginnings, he became a teacher, advisor, and thinker whose ideas about morality, relationships, and governance have influenced millions for over 2 millennia. Confucius believed in the power of education and self-improvement. He spent much of his life teaching, gathering students who were eager to learn from his wisdom. His teachings weren't about complex theories or abstract ideas. Instead, they focused on practical ways to live a virtuous and harmonious life. At the heart of his philosophy was the idea of Ren, often translated as benevolence or humaneness. For Confucius, the key to a good life was treating others with kindness, respect, and empathy. Another cornerstone of Confucian thought is the concept of li, which refers to rituals, customs, and proper behavior. Confucius believed that following these traditions created order and harmony in society. For him, li wasn't just about performing ceremonies, it was about showing respect in everyday interactions, whether with family, friends, or strangers. He saw society as a network of relationships, and he believed that harmony could be achieved when everyone fulfilled their roles with integrity and respect. Confucius placed great importance on family. He believed that strong families were the foundation of a strong society. He emphasized the virtues of filial piety, respect, and devotion to one's parents and ancestors, and taught that these values should extend to how people treat their rulers and communities. To Confucius, a ruler was like the father of a nation, and just as children should obey and honor their parents, citizens should respect and follow their leaders, provided those leaders ruled with justice and compassion. In politics, Confucius believed that a good ruler should lead by example. He argued that leaders who acted virtuously would inspire their people to do the same, creating a harmonious and stable society. This idea, known as the moral example, is a key principle of Confucian thought. Confucius taught that laws and punishments alone could not create a just society. Instead, leaders needed to win the hearts and minds of their people through fairness and moral behavior. Although Confucius spent much of his life trying to influence rulers, his ideas were not widely accepted during his lifetime. He worked as an advisor to various state officials but often faced rejection and frustration. Despite these setbacks, he never gave up on his mission to teach and improve society. After his death in 479 BCE, his students preserved his teachings in a collection called the Analects, which became one of the most important texts in Chinese philosophy. Over time, Confucianism became a dominant force in Chinese culture and government. During the Han Dynasty, Confucius' teachings were adopted as the foundation of state ideology, shaping the structure of Chinese society for centuries. His ideas influenced education, law, and governance, and Confucianism became a moral and ethical guide not only in China but also in neighboring countries like Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. Confucius' influence extends far beyond ancient China. His emphasis on education, moral leadership, and respect for others has universal appeal. In a world often marked by conflict and division, his call for harmony and compassion remains as relevant as ever. His belief in the power of relationships and ethical behavior continues to inspire those who seek to build a better, more just society. Confucius' legacy is a testament to the enduring power of wisdom. He showed that even in turbulent times, principles like kindness, respect, and integrity can guide us toward a life of harmony and purpose. His teachings remind us that greatness is not about wealth or power, but about the impact we have on others and the example we set for future generations. Averroes, Ibn Rushd, the bridge between worlds. Ibn Rushd, known in the West as Averroes, was one of the most important philosophers of the Islamic Golden Age. Born in 1126 in Córdoba, in what is now Spain, he lived during a time when the Islamic world was a hub of intellectual activity. Averroes is remembered for his efforts to reconcile reason and faith, his commentaries on Aristotle, and his influence on both Islamic and Western philosophy. He built a bridge between ancient Greek thought and the medieval world, ensuring that key ideas from Aristotle and Plato survived and flourished in Europe. Averroes came from a family of judges and scholars, and he followed in their footsteps, excelling in law, medicine, and philosophy. He became a court physician and advisor to the Almohad rulers, combining his deep understanding of Islamic teachings with a love for logic and reason. For Averroes, philosophy and religion were not in conflict. Instead, he believed they complemented each other. He argued that reason could help us understand divine truths and that both philosophy and religion sought the same ultimate goal, the truth. Averroes' most significant contribution was his work on Aristotle. He wrote detailed commentaries on Aristotle's works, explaining and interpreting them for scholars of his time. Aristotle's ideas had been largely forgotten in Europe during the early Middle Ages, but through Averroes' writings, they were reintroduced and became central to the intellectual revival of the Renaissance. He was so deeply connected with Aristotle's thought that he was called the commentator by medieval scholars. His interpretations helped shape Western philosophy, influencing figures like Thomas Aquinas and paving the way for modern science and rationalism. One of Averroes' boldest ideas was his belief in the harmony between religion and philosophy. In his famous work The Incoherence of the Incoherents, he argued against critics who claimed that philosophy was dangerous to faith. Averroes believed that the Quran encouraged the use of reason and that understanding the natural world could bring people closer to God. He emphasized that there were different levels of understanding. While religion provided clear and accessible truths for the general population, philosophy offered deeper, more complex insights for those who sought them. Averroes also made significant contributions to medicine, law, and science. His medical encyclopedia, the College, was a major reference work in both the Islamic world and Europe for centuries. In it, he combined his own observations with the medical knowledge of ancient Greece, offering practical advice and treatments that were widely used. His legal writings reflected his commitment to justice and his belief in the importance of critical thinking in interpreting religious law. Despite his achievements, Averroes faced challenges during his lifetime. His ideas were controversial, especially among conservative religious scholars who viewed philosophy with suspicion. Toward the end of his life, he fell out of favor with the Almohad rulers and was exiled. Many of his works were banned in the Islamic world, but they continued to thrive in Europe, where they were translated into Latin and studied extensively. Averroes' legacy is profound. He not only preserved and expanded on the ideas of ancient Greek philosophers, but also demonstrated that faith and reason could coexist. His works bridged the intellectual traditions of the Islamic world and Europe, creating a shared foundation of knowledge that shaped the Renaissance and beyond. His influence can be seen in the development of modern science, ethics, and theology. Today, Averroes is celebrated as a symbol of intellectual courage and the pursuit of knowledge. He showed that questioning, reasoning, and seeking the truth are not threats to faith, but essential parts of understanding the world and our place in it. His life reminds us that great thinkers are often those who challenge the boundaries of their time, leaving behind ideas that inspire generations to come. René Descartes, the father of modern philosophy. René Descartes, often called the father of modern philosophy, revolutionized the way we think about knowledge, science, and existence. Born in 1596 in La Haye-en-Touraine, France, Descartes was a mathematician, scientist, and philosopher whose ideas laid the groundwork for the Enlightenment. He sought to create a system of thought based on reason and evidence, challenging traditional beliefs and paving the way for modern scientific inquiry. Descartes' most famous statement, cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, is one of the most well-known phrases in philosophy. This simple yet profound idea arose from his search for certainty. Descartes questioned everything he believed, doubting even his own senses. He realized that the one thing he could not doubt was the fact that he was thinking. From this starting point, he built his philosophy, arguing that reason and critical thinking were the foundation of knowledge. Descartes believed that the physical world and the human mind were separate, an idea known as dualism. He argued that the mind was immaterial, responsible for thought and consciousness, while the body in the physical world operated like a machine, governed by natural laws. This distinction between mind and body became a central theme in philosophy and influenced debates on the nature of consciousness for centuries. In addition to his contributions to philosophy, Descartes was a brilliant mathematician. He developed Cartesian coordinates, a system that allows geometric shapes to be expressed in algebraic equations. This innovation laid the foundation for analytic geometry, which combines algebra and geometry, and is still used in mathematics and physics today. His work in mathematics demonstrated how abstract reasoning could be applied to solve real-world problems, embodying his belief in the power of logic and deduction. Descartes also made significant contributions to science. In his book The World, he proposed that the universe operates like a machine, governed by mechanical laws. He believed that the physical world could be understood through observation and reason, challenging the Aristotelian view that dominated medieval science. Although some of his scientific ideas were later revised, his emphasis on experimentation and evidence helped shape the scientific method. One of Descartes' most important works, Meditations on First Philosophy, explores questions about existence, God, and the nature of reality. In this book, he uses a method of systematic doubt, questioning everything he believes to find a foundation for certain knowledge. He argues for the existence of God as a perfect being, suggesting that the idea of perfection could not come from an imperfect human mind but must have been placed there by a perfect creator. His arguments for God's existence were influential, though they also sparked debate among later philosophers. Despite his groundbreaking ideas, Descartes faced challenges during his lifetime. His works were sometimes met with resistance, particularly from religious authorities who viewed his emphasis on reason as a threat to traditional beliefs. However, his ideas gained widespread influence after his death, shaping the Enlightenment and inspiring thinkers like Isaac Newton, John Locke, and Immanuel Kant. Descartes' legacy is immense. His emphasis on reason, doubt, and the scientific approach transformed philosophy and laid the groundwork for modern thought. By questioning assumptions and seeking certainty through reason, he showed that the pursuit of knowledge requires courage and a willingness to challenge tradition. Today, Descartes' ideas remain central to philosophy, mathematics, and science. His method of questioning and his commitment to reason continue to inspire those who seek to understand the world and their place in it. René Descartes is a reminder that philosophy is not just about abstract ideas, but about finding the principles that guide how we think, learn, and live. Immanuel Kant, the philosopher of reason and morality. Immanuel Kant, one of the most influential philosophers in history, reshaped how we think about reason, morality, and the nature of human understanding. Born in 1724 in Königsberg, Prussia, now Kaliningrad, Russia, Kant spent his entire life in the same city, yet his ideas transformed the intellectual world. Known for his disciplined lifestyle and profound thinking, Kant's work laid the foundation for modern philosophy, especially in ethics and epistemology. Kant's philosophy begins with a simple yet revolutionary question: how do we know what we know? He believed that human knowledge arises from the interaction between our senses and our mind. In his most famous work, Critique of Pure Reason, Kant argued that while our senses give us information about the world, our mind organizes this information using categories like time, space, and causality. He called this approach transcendental idealism, which suggests that we can never know things as they truly are, the thing in itself, only as they appear to us through our mental framework. Kant's ideas didn't stop at knowledge. He also revolutionized moral philosophy. In his work Groundwork for the Metaphysics of Morals, he introduced the concept of the categorical imperative. This principle states that we should act according to rules that could be universally applied. For example, if lying is wrong, it must be wrong in all situations, regardless of personal consequences. Kant believed that morality should be based on reason, not emotions or desires, and that ethical actions come from a sense of duty, not self-interest. One of Kant's key insights was his belief in human autonomy. He argued that humans are free and rational beings capable of making moral choices based on reason. This idea was groundbreaking in a time when many people believed morality was determined by external forces, such as religious commandments. For Kant, true freedom meant following moral laws that we create for ourselves through rational thinking. Kant also explored the concept of enlightenment. In his essay, What is Enlightenment?, he defined it as humanity's ability to think for itself and escape from ignorance. His famous phrase, "Dare to know," became a rallying cry for the age of enlightenment, inspiring individuals to question authority and seek knowledge through reason and critical thinking. Kant's influence extended beyond philosophy to politics, science, and art. He believed in the possibility of perpetual peace, arguing that nations could achieve lasting harmony through cooperation, republican governance, and respect for human rights. His ideas on peace and justice laid the groundwork for later developments in international relations and human rights law. Despite the complexity of his ideas, Kant's philosophy always centered on the dignity and worth of human beings. He believed that every person has intrinsic value and should be treated as an end, never as a means to an end. This principle, often called the formula of humanity, remains a cornerstone of modern ethics and human rights. Kant's disciplined life and dedication to thought earned him a reputation as a philosopher who lived his ideas. He was known for his strict daily routine, which reflected his belief in order and reason. Although his ideas were sometimes difficult to understand, they profoundly shaped the intellectual world, influencing thinkers like Hegel, Marx, and even modern philosophers. Today, Kant's legacy endures as a guiding force in philosophy, ethics, and political theory. His emphasis on reason, autonomy, and moral duty challenges us to think critically about how we live and interact with others. Kant's work reminds us that understanding the world and acting morally are deeply connected, and that philosophy can help us navigate the complexities of life with clarity and purpose. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher of individualism and power. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of history's most provocative philosophers, challenged traditional values and encouraged individuals to embrace their own strength and creativity. Born in 1844 in Raaken, Germany, Nietzsche lived during a time of rapid social and scientific change. His ideas about morality, religion, and human potential remain influential, sparking both admiration and controversy. Nietzsche is perhaps best known for his declaration, "God is dead." This bold statement, found in his book The Gay Science, was not a literal claim but a metaphor for the decline of traditional religious beliefs in the modern world. Nietzsche argued that as society moved away from religion, people needed new ways to find meaning in life. He believed that clinging to outdated moral systems only held humanity back and that individuals should create their own values based on personal strength and creativity. Central to Nietzsche's philosophy is the idea of the Übermensch or Overman. He introduced this concept in his work Thus Spoke Zarathustra. The Übermensch is an ideal human who rises above conventional morality and societal expectations to create their own path. Nietzsche saw this as the ultimate goal for humanity, to overcome limitations and embrace life fully, even in the face of suffering. For him, the Übermensch symbolized a life of purpose, freedom, and self-creation. Nietzsche was deeply critical of what he called slave morality, a system of values he believed originated in weakness and resentment. He contrasted this with master morality, which celebrates strength, power, and excellence. Nietzsche argued that traditional moral codes often suppress individuality and creativity, favoring conformity over personal growth. He encouraged people to reject imposed values and embrace their own instincts and desires. Another key idea in Nietzsche's philosophy is the concept of eternal recurrence. In The Will to Power, he asks us to imagine living our lives over and over again, eternally repeating every decision and moment. Nietzsche believed that accepting this idea could lead to a more meaningful life, as it challenges individuals to live in a way they would want to repeat forever. This thought experiment is a call to fully embrace life, with all its joys and struggles. Nietzsche's writing style was as unique as his ideas. His works are filled with sharp aphorisms, bold metaphors, and poetic language that reflect his passion and intensity. This style made his philosophy accessible to some and challenging to others, but it ensured that his work stood out in the history of thought. Despite his profound ideas, Nietzsche faced many personal struggles. His health was fragile, and he suffered from severe physical and mental illness later in life. By 1889, his mental condition had deteriorated to the point where he was no longer able to write or live independently. He spent the last years of his life in the care of his family, passing away in 1900. However, his works gained recognition posthumously, influencing a wide range of fields, from psychology and literature to politics and art. Nietzsche's influence is far-reaching. His ideas have inspired existentialist thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, who explored themes of individual freedom and meaning in a chaotic world. His critiques of morality and religion challenge traditional authority, paving the way for modern discussions about ethics and human values. However, Nietzsche's philosophy has also been misinterpreted and misused, particularly by ideologies that distort his ideas about power and individuality. Today, Nietzsche is remembered as a philosopher who dared to question everything, encouraging people to live boldly and authentically. His work challenges us to embrace life's complexities, to find strength in adversity, and to create meaning in a world without fixed answers. Nietzsche's philosophy remains a powerful reminder that greatness lies not in following others, but in forging our own paths. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the philosopher of freedom and equality. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a central figure of the Enlightenment, reshaped how we think about society, freedom, and human nature. Born in 1712 in Geneva, Switzerland, Rousseau grew up in modest circumstances, but his ideas would go on to influence political revolutions and modern philosophy. Known for his emotional and thought-provoking writing, Rousseau's works explore the tensions between individual freedom and societal constraints. One of Rousseau's most famous ideas is the concept of the social contract, which he introduced in his book The Social Contract. He argued that societies are formed through an agreement among people to create rules and institutions that benefit everyone. However, he believed that many governments had become corrupt, serving the interests of a few rather than the common good. For Rousseau, the ideal society is one where all citizens participate equally and laws reflect the collective will, which he called the general will. Rousseau also believed that humans are naturally good but are corrupted by society. In his famous work Discourse on the Origin of Inequality, he argued that inequality arose when people began to claim ownership of land and resources. This shift, he believed, created competition, jealousy, and oppression. Rousseau's vision of a better world was one where people lived in harmony with nature and each other, free from unnecessary hierarchies. In Emile, or on Education, Rousseau explored how education could help individuals reach their full potential. He believed that education should nurture a child's natural curiosity and individuality rather than impose rigid structures. His ideas about learning influenced modern educational practices, emphasizing the importance of experience, freedom, and personal growth. Rousseau's writings were not only philosophical but deeply personal. In his Confessions, he shared intimate details of his life, expressing his struggles, emotions, and thoughts in a way that was revolutionary for his time. This introspective style inspired the Romantic movement, which celebrated individualism and emotion over reason and logic. Rousseau's political ideas also had a lasting impact. His belief in equality and popular sovereignty inspired leaders of the French Revolution and influenced the development of modern democracies. However, his ideas about the general will were later misused by authoritarian regimes, highlighting the complexities of his legacy. Despite his revolutionary ideas, Rousseau often felt like an outsider. He faced criticism from fellow Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire and Diderot, who disagreed with his critiques of reason and progress. Rousseau's personal life was also marked by struggles, including poverty and strained relationships, but his determination to challenge conventional thinking never wavered. Rousseau's legacy lies in his profound belief in the potential for humans to create a just and free society. He challenged people to think about what it means to live authentically, to value equality, and to question the structures that govern their lives. His works remain a source of inspiration for those who seek a better, fairer world. Today, Jean-Jacques Rousseau is remembered as a philosopher who dared to imagine a society based on freedom, equality, and mutual respect. His writings continue to inspire debates about politics, education, and the human condition, reminding us that the pursuit of justice and freedom is an ongoing journey. Simone de Beauvoir, the voice of feminist philosophy. Simone de Beauvoir, one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century, revolutionized how we understand gender, freedom, and identity. Born in 1908 in Paris, France, Beauvoir grew up in a conservative family but pursued education with a determination that defied societal expectations for women at the time. Her groundbreaking ideas on feminism and existentialism have left an enduring legacy, inspiring movements for equality and justice worldwide. Beauvoir is best known for her book The Second Sex, published in 1949. This monumental work examines how women have been historically marginalized and defined by their relationship to men. In it, she famously wrote, "One is not born, but rather becomes, a woman." With this statement, Beauvoir argued that gender roles are not natural or fixed but are created by societal expectations. She urged women to reject the limitations imposed on them and to define their own lives on their own terms. As a philosopher, Beauvoir was deeply influenced by existentialism, a movement that emphasizes freedom, choice, and responsibility. She believed that every individual has the power to shape their life, but this freedom comes with challenges. For women, she argued, achieving true freedom required breaking free from societal norms that treated them as the other, a secondary category defined in opposition to men. The second sex was revolutionary, sparking debates about gender equality and laying the foundation for modern feminism. Beauvoir's partnership with fellow philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre was also central to her life and work. The two shared a unique relationship, marked by intellectual collaboration and mutual respect. Together, they explored existentialist ideas, particularly the tension between personal freedom and social responsibility. While Sartre focused on individual freedom, Beauvoir brought attention to the social and structural barriers that limited it, particularly for women. In addition to her work on feminism, Beauvoir was a prolific writer of novels, essays, and memoirs. Her novels, such as She Came to Stay and The Mandarins, explored themes of love, freedom, and morality, blending philosophy with storytelling. Her autobiographical works, including Memoirs of a Dutiful Daughter, provided insights into her personal journey, her struggles, and her intellectual growth. Beauvoir was also an activist, speaking out against injustices such as colonialism, war, and inequality. She supported the Algerian independence movement, protested the Vietnam War, and advocated for reproductive rights in France. Her activism demonstrated her commitment to applying philosophical principles to real-world issues, bridging the gap between thought and action. Despite her contributions, Beauvoir faced criticism during her lifetime. Some dismissed her as merely Sartre's partner, failing to recognize the originality and depth of her own ideas. Others questioned her approach to feminism, arguing that her focus on existential freedom did not fully address the material and systemic challenges faced by women. However, her influence has only grown over time as her works continue to resonate with new generations. Simone de Beauvoir's legacy is profound. She showed that philosophy is not just about abstract ideas, but about understanding and challenging the systems that shape our lives. Her writings continue to inspire movements for gender equality, urging individuals to question societal norms and embrace their freedom. Today, Simone de Beauvoir is remembered as a trailblazer, a thinker who dared to confront uncomfortable truths and advocate for a more just and equal world. Her life and work remind us that freedom is not a given, it is something we must fight for, both for ourselves and for others. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content and would like to see more, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue sharing fascinating stories from history and philosophy. We'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Who is your favorite philosopher, or what topic would you like us to cover next? Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our future uploads. See you in the next video.